What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm reviewing the brand new Adidas PHARRELL 4D. First off, huge thank you to Adidas Originals and everyone involved in getting me this pair of sneakers ahead of the US release. I'm really excited about these and I can't thank you guys enough for it. For the last 3 or 4 years, PHARRELL has been one of the biggest names at Adidas, just below Kanye. And when his first sneaker released, the PHARRELL Human Race NMD, Boost and NMDs were at the height of their popularity. So because of that, and also the fact that PHARRELL's name does carry a good amount of weight, PHARRELLs were insanely popular for the first 2 years that they were out. However, near the beginning of 2018, PHARRELL's Adidas collaboration started to lose a little bit of its luster, and I'm not sure if that's just because Boost was becoming a lot more common, or maybe people were just kind of getting sick of seeing the same PHARRELL Human Race NMDs release, but for whatever reason, it just didn't carry the same weight that it used to. And because of that, it does feel like Adidas is trying to re-inject some hype, for lack of a better term, back into the PHARRELL line. And it looks like Adidas and PHARRELL are doing the same thing that they did with the original NMDs and adding one of their more popular and newer technologies to it. Obviously, as the name would suggest, on this shoe they're using 4D. But is 4D technology enough to make this shoe fly off the shelves the way that the PHARRELL NMDs did? Let's find out. The Adidas Pharrell Williams 4D, which by the way is the official name, it seems like they've actually dropped the human race wording from the title, not sure why, drops on January 11th for the kind of insane retail price of $400. The Pharrell 4D is already released overseas and actually sold out, and so this release is strictly for the United States. The Pharrell 4Ds are dropping in 2 different colorways initially, this olive colorway and also a light purple colorway. And usually I would go with something like purple because, you know, Ravens, go Lamar Jackson, but I just didn't really like that purple on this shoe. I just feel like the olive is so much more wearable. But jumping into the sneaker itself, the entire upper of the shoe is covered in prime knit, which is very similar if not identical to some of the other 4D mid-tops. The main difference on this upper obviously is the color and also some of the PHARRELL hits that you can find around the sneaker. The prime knit itself feels really great against your foot. It's super soft, super stretchy. In fact, it's even a little bit more stretchy than the Ultra Boost 20s, which I was kind of surprised by. And you've also got a lot of perforations on the toe, which means this shoe is unbelievably breathable. In fact, my feet were kind of getting cold wearing this shoe. As you continue back on the shoe, you get to these flat green laces that actually weave through the upper. They don't really do too much in the way of tightening the shoe. I would definitely suggest grabbing a pair of these shoes that you could wear without tightening the laces because honestly, all they really do is crumple in the middle when you pull them together. It's not a bad thing, that's just sort of something that you have to deal with when you buy sock-like sneakers, and I also feel like they just add a nice look to the sneaker. I wouldn't like the way the shoe looked without the laces. And then moving to the top of the shoe, you've got this much thicker and much less stretchy prime knit that's actually kind of difficult to get your foot into because it's just so thick. It really feels like one of those pairs of super thick winter socks which feel great when you get them on, but getting them on is kind of a chore. And then inside the shoe you've got a green sock liner that's made up of half prime knit, half sort of neoprene plasticky material. It's kind of just your standard fare when it comes to Ultra Boost like sneakers. Padding's alright around the heel, there's not really much to speak of, but it still feels good against your foot because it feels like a sock. The insole of the sneaker is this super thin piece of foam which feels alright. It kind of adds some nice cushion between your foot and the 4D because if you've ever worn 4D, it's not the softest thing in the world. On top of the teal colored insole, you've got one of PHARRELL's signature details with the foot reflexology chart printed onto it in white. And interestingly enough, underneath the insole, you've just got this very thin, clear piece of plastic mesh which separates your foot from the 4D. And because the 4D is hollow, it actually allows air to come up through the 4D and ventilate the bottom of your foot, which I think is awesome. And that's the reason I've removed all my insoles on all my other 4D sneakers because I just really like the way it feels. Granted, it's less comfortable, but it's so much more ventilated. As for sizing, the PHARRELL 4D does seem to fit true to size. I will say that it does seem to run a little bit narrow, so if you have wider feet, maybe go up half a size, but other than that, it feels fine on my foot. However, as I always suggest, if you have the chance to try this shoe on first before you buy it, or any other mid-top 4D sneaker, definitely do that to make sure the sizing is right for you. Especially when you're spending $400 on this shoe, because that's not cheap for a sneaker. And then continuing back to the midfoot of the sneaker, you've got some more perforations in sort of a half circle shape, and you've also got the Adidas 3 stripes printed on in sort of a lighter olive color. Then moving even farther back on the shoe, you've got this lighter green embroidery, which really matches the color and the shape of the 4D 4D, but also actually stiffens up the prime knit to give you a little bit more support in the heel and also a tiny bit in the midfoot. I don't love it. I see what they're trying to do by using the same color as the 4D, because I do not think they can change the color of the 4D midsole, but I really wouldn't have been mad if they had used another shade of olive, whether it was darker or whether it was lighter, just because I don't feel like this upper really needs to tie in with the 4D midsole. It's already so different. Why does it have to sort of wrap up onto it? I just don't get that about it, but it's fine. It doesn't look bad. It's just not something that I love. Honestly, the more that I look at it though, the more that I like it. So it's possible that I'm just gonna get over it in like a day and just really like this feature. I don't know. We'll see. At the top of the ankle on the lateral side, you've got this dark forest green tag with the human race logo printed in white. My one sort of gripe with this detail is that they seem to be using a much more bluey shade of green than the rest of the upper of the sneaker, which seems to be a much more yellow shade of green, so it doesn't match as well as I would have liked, but I'm sure it's supposed to just pop, and it definitely does that. And actually, it looks like that's the only Pharrell hit on the entire exterior of the shoe, so it's kind of necessary to pop, so I do understand it in that sense. And then moving around to the heel of the sneaker, you've got this dark forest green pull tab that runs all the way from the ankle down to the sole. And then moving down on the shoe, you get to the namesake of the sneaker, the 4D midsole. If you're not familiar with 4D midsoles, essentially what they are just a 3D printed midsole, which I think is really cool because as an industrial designer, 3D printing is something that I used to do a lot. What's cool about the future of this 3D printed midsole is that Adidas hopes to actually have scanners in their stores where they can scan the shape of your foot and then 3D print you a midsole to fit your exact foot shape. I just think it's so cool that Adidas is trying to do that, and the fact that they're trying to customize individual shoes for individual people is so crazy to me. As of right now though, it does kind of feel like this technology is still in beta because it doesn't really feel any better than any other midsole. It just kind of feels like a standard foam midsole. The technology is definitely cool though, and you can see that Adidas is sort of iterating on each new version of their 4D midsoles by changing things up slightly with every sneaker, but it's not something that I would want to wear every day, all day. 4D just isn't that soft or that flexible yet. It definitely gives you more support than a lot of other midsoles, but softness wise, it's not going to give you a lot of impact protection. Also, like I mentioned before, they can't change the color yet, so you're kind of stuck with this very light teal color, which isn't bad, but it doesn't really match with this olive upper. And on a side note, it does seem like Adidas actually borrowed this midsole from the Alpha Edge 4D, which out of all the 4D midsoles, I feel like is the most comfortable, so that was a smart move. And then finally, moving to the bottom of the shoe, you've got this solid tealish yellow Continental rubber outsole. The Adidas PHARRELL 4D is definitely a solid sneaker. I like pretty much everything about it visually except for the color of the 4D, which unfortunately you can't change, so can't really fault them for that. Comfort wise, the upper of this sneaker is great. It feels like an extra pair of socks on your feet and it's super breathable, especially if you take out the insole, but you will lose a little bit of cushion. The 4D midsole is pretty much exactly what you would expect. It's the same as the Alpha Edge 4D's midsole, so it's not incredibly comfortable, but it's definitely not rock hard. The only downside to this sneaker, at least for me, is the price tag. $400 is a huge amount of money, and I understand that 4D technology is expensive, and that's probably the reason this shoe is so expensive, but it's still a lot of money. What I'm interested to see is how well this shoe sells in the United States, and I do think that's heavily based on the supply that Adidas is actually putting out there. I definitely think it's possible that this sneaker could completely sell out and resell for a good amount of money, and we did sort of see that in Europe where the shoe did sell out, and right now it's reselling for a little bit over retail, or in some cases a lot over retail depending on the size. However, I also think it's very possible that this sneaker could sit and maybe even go on sale. It's really nothing against the sneaker itself. I personally love this sneaker. I think it's a great shoe and I plan to wear it a lot. It's really only the price point. The price point is just too high. And I do totally understand that it's the materials. 4D is expensive. I totally get that. But $400 is still $400. Realistically, I think the sneaker will probably sell out of most sizes online unless it's super limited, in which case, of course, it's gonna completely sell out. I think in store it will probably sell out in the stores that it's selling, except for maybe some of the flagship stores, like the New York Broadway Houston store and maybe their Fifth Avenue store. It might sit around for a little bit. But I honestly have no idea. Sometimes sneakers sell out completely that you would never expect, and sometimes sneakers that you think would be insanely hyped sit. There's just really no way to know until the sneaker actually releases. And I know I've been very critical of this sneaker, but I really do like this sneaker a lot. I think it looks great. I think it feels good on feet. I think it really does come down to the price point and whether people are really willing to spend $400 for this shoe. If you love the Pharrell line or love this sneaker, then sure, shell out the money. It's definitely worth it. It's a solid shoe. But if you're not totally sure about it, I'm not sure if it's worth spending $400 to find out. Huge thank you once again again to Adidas Originals for sending over this pair of sneakers a little bit early. I really appreciate it. I can't thank you guys enough for all the love you guys have been showing me. But now I would love to know your thoughts on the PHARRELL 4Ds and whether you're planning to grab a pair for yourself when they drop on January 11th. So let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.